Hey everybody, and welcome to XSTEM All Access. My name is Justin Schaefer, also known as Mr. Fascinate, and I'll be your host for this multi-day series showcasing some of the coolest minds in STEM. Today is the second day of inspiring new XSTEM episodes brought to you by the USA Science and Engineering Festival. The mission of the USA Science and Engineering Festival is to inspire the next generation about careers in STEM. You can check out their other free programs and events for teachers and students at usasciencefestival.org. Before we begin, please join me in thanking our partners, AstraZeneca, Discovery Channel, and the U.S. Space Force for making this XSTEM series possible. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Justin Schaefer, but the kids call me Mr. Fascinate. I've traveled all over the world speaking to young people about science and technology, and I've hosted a number of science TV shows on platforms like Travel Channel, WGBH, and Al Roker Entertainment. I'm super excited to bring my zest, zeal, and enthusiasm for STEM into this space and share that love for STEM with you all today. I hope you're as excited as I am to get started, because today we are exploring real-life robotics, like real-life robotics. We'll hear from U.S. Space Force Guardian Major Adrian Law. Later in the program, Easton LaChappelle will join us. He's a robotic arm engineer who is trailblazing the future of prosthetic devices. We'll hear from Jasmine Lawrence, a robotics product manager, who will show us an up-close look at her personal journey into robotics and entrepreneurship. And in between, my homie, the hip-hop MD Maynard Okereke, who will entertain us with a fun brain break. You're not going to want to miss any minute of this. Wherever you are tuning in from today, make sure you show us how you STEM on social media. Get your parents' permission and share a video or photo of you doing your favorite science activities. Grab your phone and take a selfie while tuning in today. Teachers, show us what your students are doing in the classroom. Tag at USA Science Fest and me at Mr. Fascinate, and use the hashtag #ShowUsSTEM. Now, let's get ready for a special guest. I'm excited to introduce U.S. Space Force Guardian Major Adrian Law. Major Law is going to talk about the newest branch of the armed forces, the United States Space Force. Please welcome Major Adrian Law.
Justin, thank you so much for the warm welcome, and it's so wonderful to virtually meet every one of you today. As Justin mentioned, I'm Major Adrian Law with the United States Space Force, and I wanted to take some time today to talk to you about why the Space Force. It's the number one question that I get when I go around talking to people about Space Force is Space Force real? And I'm here to tell you right now, Space Force is real. And so I want to spend some time talking to you about why we have a Space Force, what we do in the Space Force, the importance of thinking and being innovative, which I know is important to all of you who have an interest in STEM and STEM-related fields, how you can connect if you chose to be involved in the U.S. Space Force at some point in the future. And so the number one thing and the number one reason we have a Space Force is to ensure that we have space superiority. And so just like we have the United States Navy, which ensures access of the seas, we have an Army to ensure that the ground component of our nation is covered and secure. We have space to ensure that the space domain is open and free to any that want to use it, and to also ensure that the things that we as Americans believe are important, that we have access to conduct our operations in a way that are most important to us to ensure that we get our mission done. And so we do that with what we'll call the 4 Ps. We do that as protectors, providers, partners, and pathfinders. And so I want you to think about things that you do every day, or maybe your parents do, such as going to the gas station and swiping a credit card into the machine to get access to gas, or maybe about going to the ATM machine and putting your card in and getting money out. Those things all happen because we have satellites in space that allow us to do those things that are vital to our way of life. Think about a couple other things that we wouldn't do as Americans, or anybody in the world for that matter. The ability to communicate, the ability to surf the internet, the ability for financial markets to function. They can't do it without the timing that our GPS satellites provide. So we've got satellites that we put into space that their job is to look at other satellites so that we sort of know where everybody is, and we understand what their role is. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, all of the satellites in space all have the ability to operate freely and are all doing things that are okay and that won't cause any harm to another satellite. And so that's what one of our missions does. It sort of looks at other satellites and makes sure those satellites are doing things that are okay, that are going to ensure that space is open and has free access and also won't interfere with any missions that we're trying to do. So we also think about space in terms of how many objects and how dangerous objects in space can be to other satellites. So this may blow your mind. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But we have over 30,000 objects in space that we track. And that list keeps growing and growing and growing. We could think of it kind of as space junk. And so we've got satellites that understand where all of those pieces of space debris are, so they don't interfere and collide with one of our satellites. So with satellites, they're so important, whether it's encryption of data, right? Because if we have data coming down from a satellite or data we're sending up to a satellite, we don't want an enemy to see it. We have encryption, and that encryption requires communications. Think back to what I was telling you about where we have satellites looking at other satellites. That's kind of a form of intelligence, right? So it's collecting information that we then get and we think about and we can use to plan and make decisions about other things that we want to do, whether we want to make maneuvers, all kinds of things that we use intelligence for. And so the last thing I want to spend a few minutes talking about to you today are the future, right? What does the future hold for the Space Force? You know, it's really a question none of us really know the answer to. We have some ideas. You know, will we land on Mars? Will we land on the moon? And what will it look like? And how will we take care of those astronauts that are conducting those missions? How do we get them there safely? How do we get them back safely? And we think about launches. We think about the vehicle that's in space. We think about what the conditions do to the astronauts' bodies. And so the future really is untold and unknown, and it's so exciting. And so that's part of why I'm in the Space Force, is an opportunity to be a part of that future, to figure out in 50 years what space will look like and how we play a role today in getting. So if you're excited like I am about space, the Space Force, serving in the Space Force, learning more about it, sharing it with friends or family, I encourage you to go to www.spaceforce.com, and that website will tell you even more about the Space Force than what I was able to share with you for a few brief moments today. So I wish you all the best. I know you have a lot of wonderful activities and presenters to learn from here as part of this program today. So all the best, and Semper Supra.
Thank you, Major Law, for sharing that look into the U.S. Space Force. Hopefully you caught Major Law signing off with the Space Force motto, Semper Supra. Here's a challenge for you. Look up the meaning of Semper Supra and tell us what you find. Tag the Space Force at go_Space Force and tag us at USA Science Fest. If you're just tuning in, we're learning about real-life robotics, and I hope you're ready to meet our next speaker. Easton LaChappelle made his first robotic hand out of Legos, electrical tubing, and fishing line at just 14 years old. Now, a decade later, he is revolutionizing the prosthetics industry as the founder and CEO of Unlimited Tomorrow, where he's creating technology with a purpose. The high cost of advanced prosthetic lenses is unattainable for many people who need them. Easton is changing lives for the better, creating ultra-personalized advanced prosthetic devices at a fraction of the cost, using the power of 3D printing, 3D scanning, 3D modeling, and virtual communications. Easton, man, I can't wait to hear more about your work. Welcome to XSTEM.
Thanks for having me, Justin. I'm really excited to talk about this incredible technology, the journey, which is, I feel like it's just getting started, and show the product off. You know, it's a lot of fun making robotics, so I can't wait to jump into it.
Hey, man, that is super cool. I'm looking forward to hearing you rock the house.
All right, thanks, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Like Justin mentioned, my name is Easton LaChappelle. I'm the founder and CEO of Unlimited Tomorrow, and really excited to talk to you about my journey starting a company when I was actually 18 and to where I'm at now. I'm 25 years old, running a company. I have 20 employees. I'm very, very fortunate to be in this position. But ultimately, what it comes down to is creating technology with purpose and helping as many people as possible. So where this all started, I grew up in a very, very small town in Colorado named Mancos. Population's about 1,200 people. My graduating class of high school is about 23 kids, to put in perspective. single stoplight, grew up on a dirt road type of a thing. And my school didn't have many resources growing up. So I was always a kid who would run home from school and start tinkering, taking things apart, playing with Legos. I was always fascinated with inventing and creating things. And specifically, I always wanted to get into robotics. I thought, how cool would it be to create, maybe a robotic hand or a robotic suit or something like that? But it always felt so far-fetched. When you think about robotics at the core, it involves so many disciplines of engineering. There's system design. It's actually how you create the actual device, or like all the different interconnected components. There's mechanical design, what the thing actually looks like. Electrical design, how things actually are connected together, and there could be a computer or wiring and sensors, and then software, which really connects everything together. And I always thought, how cool would it be to make a robotic hand? When I was 14, I started to adventure into this idea, and it took about 9 months to turn this idea into reality. So much of that time was failing, and it's something I kind of changed my thought process early on about creating, where I looked at failure as an opportunity and a forcing function to learn. It took 9 months of trial and error to create this very, very simple robotic hand made out of electrical tubing, fishing line as the tendons. I used Legos as plastic supports, small servo motors from an RC airplane, and the system was controlled by a glove. So when you move your hand, the robotic hand would copy your movement, and you could do some pretty cool things with that. Right when I completed the project, I saw so many ways to improve this. What if I made it more human-like? What if I added an opposable thumb? What about individual finger joints? Maybe you could even, pick up objects and maybe even help people one day. And I started venturing into this more and more. Early on, I started using science fair as an excuse to make something cool every year. So I'd enter this in. I got to show it off. I got to talk to some incredible people like judges and other students, and it really motivated me to yeah, keep creating and see what I could do with this. I slowly started turning my bedroom into a lab with a bed of the quarter, and I would stay up well into the night creating the next version of this. Over the next couple years, I started making a robotic hand using 3D printers. I got my first 3D printer when I was for my 16th birthday off a Kickstarter project for a couple $100s. And it changed the way I thought about creating. I had a box that could make anything I could imagine in my bedroom, and it was printing 24/7. And it really changed how I approached problem solving and looked at the future and technology. And it really made me excited. And so slowly started making a full robotic arm up to the shoulder and entered that into the science fair and ended up doing really, really well that year. I placed second in the world in engineering at the International Science Fair, but that actually wasn't the biggest moment that happened. It was actually during the state science fair in Colorado, where a small girl came up to my project, and I noticed she was looking at the finger joints and moving things around and paying attention to the small details more than any other child at the time. And it caught my eye. And I realized that she was missing her right arm and was wearing a prosthesis. And for me, I grew up, going to the grocery store and occasionally seeing someone who is maybe born without a limb or have some type of limb difference or limb loss. But I never actually really got to talk to someone who's wearing a prosthetic device. And seeing her prosthetic device, it was very, very simple. It was a human-like claw with one motion. I think it had one sensor, and I found out that it had cost tens of thousands of dollars. And talking to her parents, I realized that she was going to soon outgrow this. It had taken months to create for her, which is a problem for growing children. And then I looked at the arm I created, which had individual finger motion. It could toss a ball to you, shake people's hands, and I said, "Wow, this is number one. This is just not acceptable. I have a smartphone in my pocket that has access to all of humankind's history, but this little girl has almost an $80,000 prosthesis that she's soon going to outgrow and is very, very limited. I have to do something about this." And for me, this was my aha moment. I found technology that I've been creating, and I found a purpose that I could pair that to. So slowly after that, I went back to the drawing board, started creating prosthetic designs. And this was when I was about 16, 17, and media started catching wind. I started creating YouTube videos about my creations, and people saw that, and it started blowing up. I was invited to speak all around the world. I was invited to do an internship at NASA, Johnson Space Center, working on the Robonaut project. I was invited to give a TEDx talk. And actually go to the White House Science Fair where President Obama shook one of the hands I made, which was incredible. And through that, I connected with Tony Robbins, who actually saw the TEDx talk I gave, and who's an incredible author and life coach and motivational speaker, among many other things. And he reached out saying, I can't believe you're meeting world leaders, but still living in your parents' bedroom. Let me help you take this to the next level. Tony Robbins helps people around the world psychologically, but he's always wanted to help them physically. And so he provided mentorship, guidance, startup capital to go from my bedroom to a small garage. And this is when the company Unlimited Tomorrow was born. And this was incredible, but also very, very daunting. I was 18 at the time. I knew nothing about running or starting a company. I loved creating technology, and so I had to learn very, very fast. At the core of it, Unlimited Tomorrow's mission is to empower people with limb differences with an intuitive, scalable model to create personalized prostheses from start to finish. And there's a lot of challenges with current prosthetics that we're solving through technology. They're very heavy, they're bulky, they're expensive, they're hard to use, they don't look very human-like. And through new technology like 3D printing, we can really change how people think about technology and ultimately create some incredible products to, I think for the small things. And what we're finding with a lot of people who use our device, they want to roll down a long sleeve shirt on their other arm that maybe they've been missing all their life for the first time, or maybe they just want to hold a cup of coffee and open up a door. And it's not like I want to go rock climbing. It's very, very small things. And so it really makes you think about technology a little bit differently. One of our first recipients was a small 10-year-old girl named Momo, who's an incredible person. And at the time, we would send 3D scanners to her house down in Florida. And I intentionally never spoke to Momo. I never met her. I had zero interaction with her until I actually created a one-of-a-kind, very unique prosthetic limb for her that was unique to her size, shape, and skin tone. And we partnered with Microsoft, and they made an incredible documentary about the first time we met. And you can imagine it was emotional, years of my life dedicated to creating prosthetic technology, and then be able to meet Momo for the first time and actually give her a very personalized prosthetic limb that is literally a mirror image of her, really validated what I'm doing here personally. But then from a company perspective, I saw an incredible way to scale this technology and get it to the people who need it most. Right now, the people who can't afford prosthetic devices or don't have access to them are the people who need it most. And it could be a child who's maybe getting bullied at school, or maybe it's an adult that's having issues being independent or wants to do something they've never done before. So it really made me think about, how can we tackle this in a meaningful way and not only solve part of the problem, but look at technology, the business model, and the distribution, and combine and kind of look at this system holistically and create a solution to tackle this head on globally. If we look at the next slide, you'll be able to see some of the technology that we've created. I'm really happy to introduce you to TrueLimb, which is the most affordable, accessible, personalized, and lightest weight prosthetic arm on the market. And that's a big statement. This is really hard. This is a hard thing to create. Essentially, it's a robotic hand that's attached to someone. So, there's robotics, and then there's the attachment mechanism, which is called the socket, and then there's sensors embedded within all this. And we've started from scratch. We've invented all of this from the ground up. We're unique as we're an all-in-one company. There's no other company that makes all the components. So that really helps drive the weight, the cost, everything down, make a really streamlined solution. I mentioned the personalization, so I actually have a TrueLimb in front of me. This is a 1.5 pounds. It's extremely lightweight. Each finger, all the dimensions of the device is made so it's a mirror image down to finger length, width, palm dimensions, forearm dimensions, and especially the socket. So when someone purchases one, it will literally be a mirror image and match their skin tone exactly, which is really exciting and entering a new era of technology. There's also a lot of other features that I could talk for hours on, but what I'm really proud of is the cost. We've been able to engineer and produce TrueLimb and sell it for $7,995, which is the most affordable prosthetic arm in the market. And when children outgrow this, we've created a model so then they can return this to us, and we can upcycle all the expensive components like the motors, electronics, and 3D print them a new one. I have a short video to share with everybody to see it in action. Let's start it.
When I put it on, I was really surprised when the LEDs started working and it just looked really cool. was just really happy that it felt comfortable and it was moving when I wanted it to.
I've had my TrueLim for quite a few months now. TrueLim has changed my life in the golfing game by way of giving me the ability to put two hands on the club for the first time in my life. It's changed my everyday life in many different ways. I find myself trying new things every single day.
Now that I have my TrueLim, I think it can make my life easier. I can now open doors and carry 2 cups at the same time. My TrueLim has made it easier to paint. I paint abstract with acrylic paint. My TrueLim does make it easier to handle my horses.
So as you can see, we are literally merging man and machine. This is the true definition of technology with purpose. We're giving people confidence and independence and the ability to do things maybe they've never been able to do before, which is really exciting and humbling from my perspective. The last slide I have is a couple points that I put together of something I've learned over the last 7 years now of my business. And it's been such a journey. I started when I was 14 creating technology. I started the business at 18. I'm 25 now. And one of my sayings is I learn something new every day, and I stay true to that. And so these are a couple points that I distilled down to hopefully give some words of advice, because it's daunting jumping into anything new like this. Ultimately, I kind of boil this down to push boundaries and create the future. The first thing is take a step back and look at things differently. I value perspective in so many different capacities, from my team, from other people that look at technology or problem that we're facing. That perspective shift is extremely helpful. And when you take a step back and look at things a little bit differently, you might have a light bulb moment, an aha moment, and that might be the solution you're looking for. Second is use creativity as a tool and fuel for motivation. Creativity is inside of all of us, and we need to find something that really harnesses it and brings it out of us. And if we can find that, it's the motivation to push through all the failures and challenges, and it makes learning a lot easier. In a lot of ways, we can use this as a tool. And it's something, if you like what you're doing, if you're into something, it'll force you to ask questions, look at things differently, and power through it. So harness creativity and use it. 3 is don't settle for less, always push for more. It touches on the fourth one, which is if you're comfortable, change that. Always trying to be uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you are vulnerable. You are learning something. You're outside of your comfort zone. You're venturing into uncharted territory and unknowns. And that's where incredible things happen. It's when you put down your guard and you're vulnerable, and you say, let's jump into this, and that's where I think you can learn the most and incredible things happen. If you go back to the slide really quick, one of the major points, and I'll say this to over and over, I'm sure I'll look back years ahead, but it's you can't solve big problems by yourself. I started my business as a solopreneur. Now I'm an entrepreneur. And you can't really do much as a solopreneur. You have to build a world-class team that have similar values. And I've learned this the hard way. Imagine if I brought someone into my company that is so motivated by money that it starts changing things and how we communicate and how we sell. We could sell this for $50,000 and still be very competitive, but that's actually not helping people at the end of the day. So you have to have similar values, and you have to build a world-class team, which is it takes an incredible amount of skill set behind that. But you have to venture outside of yourself to be able to do big things. And the last one I think is really important, and it seems so simple, is just allow yourself to really think about things. In today's world, we are immersed with technology, smartphones, apps, social media, the internet, and these companies build this technology to always have your attention. And when you see that, you can cut that out and you can take a step back and really think. And it sounds so simple, And I actually schedule in thinking time for myself, believe it or not, because it is so valuable. And I think in today's world, everything's pulling for your attention. But if you can say, stop, let me think, let me problem solve, let's write things down. This, if you put all this together, a couple of these points, we can push boundaries and create the future. Thank you so much.
Easton, wow, that was fantastic. I'm inspired, I'm fascinated, I'm motivated. You had everything. I felt every emotion in that presentation, man. That was great. Really curious about your experience with President Obama. It looks like you had an opportunity to have him shake one of your robotics or your prosthetics hands. How did that feel?
It was probably the most bizarre moment of my life. I never thought growing up in such a small town in Colorado in the middle of nowhere that I would be at number one, the White House alone, but actually seeing something I created in my mind and then physically had to create, actually shake hands with the president. It was mind blowing. It was incredible emotionally and it was validating everything like that. But it actually kind of a moment happened where I realized when I was meeting with President Obama that this is really bigger than just me. This is not just a project out of my bedroom. This has potential to impact people around the world. And to be at the stage already, it really changed the way I looked at success and the trajectory of my life, creating. It was a powerful moment, and I think about it quite often.
Awesome. And I hear you saying that, you're from a small town and you've also had all this media coverage and all these opportunities and access, but I imagine it wasn't always that way. So what advice would you give to a younger person that might be in a small town today that maybe wants to connect with resources and mentors?
Yeah. It's challenging and it's always getting past that first hump, and then you'll always have the next hump to get over, and it's never ending, but you just have to jump into it ultimately. One thing I did early on was I started making videos and sharing my creations. I started making some of my technology open source so people would take it and adapt it and learn from it, and I found this incredible community online. I started finding mentors online through online forums. And I was, I went to local science museums and found incredible smart people there that would also, help me and help me learn and troubleshoot and things like that. So it's really just tapping into the resources that are literally at your fingertips now: social media, the internet, online forums. Finding these communities, these mentors, and it's one of these things like if you don't ask, you'll never know. And so it's the power of the worst you'll get is a no, and you can move on from that and go find someone that will say yes, and that's really what matters. So jump into it and get creative with resources.
I know that's right, Easton. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I'm curious
Absolutely.
about the future of your industry and where things are headed for you. I know that prosthetics are becoming more and more intuitive. There's more technology using machine learning and AI that allows people to maybe control the prosthetics with more precision and dexterity. So, what does that future look like for you?
Yeah, we have a very nimble, incredible team here. We have industrial grade 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC machines. We have essentially an industrial maker space. If we have an idea in the morning, we can have it in our hands later that night. And that really does change how you think about things. We can iterate very, very fast. And so when you look at this device, it's only going to get more human-like. It's only going to get lighter. It's only going to get more affordable. It's only going to get more easier to use. And when you look at this is the socket. Believe it or not, we have about 30 sensors embedded within here. And using incredible smart algorithms, like you mentioned, we can do some incredible things, really merging man and machine. Our goal is to become a standard for upper limb prosthetic devices globally, and that means partnering with hospitals and clinicians. We've created our direct consumer model, so for the first time, you can go online and purchase a prosthetic limb directly from us, and we help you through the whole process. Also nonprofits and working across the world and globally. That's the big goal on the horizon. We also want to go beyond prosthetics. We have patents and prototypes of exoskeletons. Imagine if someone has all their limbs, but maybe they don't have mobility over their arm or the hand. Can we repurpose some of this technology as a robotic glove? and give someone the mobility and independence. Also, maybe for a lower limb, if someone who is paralyzed, could we give them the ability to walk again? And but also trying to make something that is affordable and accessible. That's a common thread with everything we do. So we want to continue to push accessible technology, technology with purpose. We want to, solve the impossible and look at things differently at all the time.
Super, super cool, Easton. Well, I got to tell you, I definitely going to have like first or second dibs on maybe that prototype of a mobile suit. Like if there's like an Iron Man suit out there, yeah, definitely will put in some cash for that. That's all the time we have for questions today. Unfortunately, Easton, thank you so much for joining us, for telling your story. I am super excited to hear more about your work in the future, and I know you got a bright future ahead of you. Can't wait to see how you change lives for the better. So check out unlimitedtomorrow.com to keep up with the amazing work that Easton is doing. And please join me in giving Easton a virtual high five and a round of applause.
Thanks, Justin.
All right. So let's not say goodbye to Easton just yet. Easton, are you cool with having a virtual selfie with the audience?
Let's do it.
All right. So usually this is how we do it. We do one kind of plain, like smiley one, and then we do one goofy one. All right. So everybody grab your phones right now, your devices, anything you're going to use to take a picture. We'll give you a few seconds for that. And we should start right about now. So first one's smiling. Okay, Easton. 3, 2, 1. All right, and the second one, like I said, we got some young folks in the audience. I'm sure they like to get silly, they like to get goofy, they like to have fun. So we're gonna have a little bit more fun with this one. All right, Easton, you ready?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
2, 1. All right, cool. Thank you all so much for participating. And don't forget to share those selfies with us. Be sure to tag at USA Science Fest and tag us at Mr. Fascinate and at Unlimited Tomorrow and use the hashtag #ShowUsHowYouSTEM. Before we jump into our next speaker session, let's take a few minutes for a brain break. I'm excited to introduce my really good friend, Maynard Okereke, also known as the Hip Hop MD. Maynard, who has a degree in civil engineering, is bridging the gap between music, entertainment, and science with the goal of encouraging more diverse involvement in the STEM fields. Let's join Maynard while on expedition in the North Pacific Ocean and have some fun while learning about remotely operated vehicles, or ROVs, used in ocean exploration.
Thank you, Justin. It is such a pleasure to be part of this XSTEM All Access event, and I'm so excited to share a quick little brain break with y'all. So excited that I called my good friend Diddy up and rented this giant yacht just to share with you the wonders of the deep ocean. Okay, I don't know Didion. I didn't rent a yacht, but it's not all cap because I am on a ship and I'm headed out to the deep sea, here to talk to you about something that you may not commonly associate with the ocean: robotics. So what do you normally think of when you think of robots? You may think of a helpful, friendly maid like Rosie from the Jetsons, or perhaps a high-tech, artificially intelligent robot sent from the past to destroy humanity. Or maybe you might think of this. But what you should be thinking of is this: Hercules, a highly advanced, customizable, remotely operated vehicle, also known as an ROV. Robots are designed to make our lives simpler, performing tasks that we either find too tedious or too dangerous to do ourselves. And what more difficult task to perform than underwater deep sea explorations? So here are 3 robotic fun facts about the Hercules ROV that you probably didn't know. Number 1, Predator arm. Just like the alien being that terrorized planet Earth, the Predator arm on this ROV is a highly advanced technological masterpiece. Used to pick up, transport, and install all sorts of equipment, as well as collect biological and geological samples, the arm is incredibly dexterous and can rotate in multiple directions. Hydraulically powered, it sits across from a second manipulator arm and helps Hercules carry upwards of 250 pounds worth of samples or tools to and from the ocean floor. Number 2, remote control. If you thought your PlayStation or Xbox gaming skills couldn't be put to good use, think again. While Hercules is diving at depths of over 13,000 feet, Highly skilled pilots are on board the ship controlling its every move. An incredibly intuitive remote manipulator arm enables an ROV pilot to perform the exact motions from the safety of the control room. This state-of-the-art configuration gives pilots not only full control of Hercules' arm, but also 6 of its 20 horsepower hydraulic thrusters that enable it to move at speeds of up to 2 meters per second through the water. Number 3, lights, camera, action. What good would all these high-tech features be if you couldn't share their discoveries with the world? Much like your favorite music or movie star, Hercules is always ready for the spotlight. Equipped with a high-definition, front-facing video camera, along with 6 other video cameras and a still cam capturing visuals from multiple locations, Hercules' TikTok content capabilities are next level. In addition to its camera game, it's also loaded with high-powered front-facing deep-sea LED lights and up to 12 other fully configurable LEDs along its frame. These cameras and lights enable Hercules to capture some of the most amazing visuals of underwater geological activity like hydrothermal vents, rarely seen deep water species like the 6-gilled shark and the vampire squid, as well as newly discovered shipwrecks. Footage that is giving scientists a better understanding of the geological makeup of the ocean, the wildlife that inhabits it, and clues to how we can better protect these fragile ocean ecosystems. So next time you think of a robot, think more than just your Roomba at home or the AI beings that we see in movies. Think deeper than the rovers that we're sending to Mars to discover new life. Because there's a whole world right below us that makes up over 70% of the planet and contains some of the most alien-looking beings that we could possibly ever hope to find. And we're going to need more robots that look just like Hercules, or better, made by people that look just like you, to discover them. I'm the Hip Hop MD. This is Hip Hop Science, reminding you that curiosity is nature's PhD. Never stop asking. That's it for me. I hope y'all enjoyed the rest of this XSTEM All Access event. Back to you, Justin.
Thank you so much, Maynard, for that entertaining look at ROVs. Be sure to follow Maynard at Hip Hop Science Show for more. You'll definitely be entertained. Now let's get ready to meet Jasmine Lawrence. Jasmine is a robotics product manager on a mission to create delightful experiences that make a difference in people's lives. Currently, she's working on the Everyday Robot project at X, the Moonshot Factory, formerly known as Google X, a Silicon Valley company aiming to solve some of the world's most challenging problems with breakthrough technologies. As part of the Everyday Robot project, Jasmine is helping to build a new type of learning robot, one that can eventually learn to help everyone every day. Jasmine earned her bachelor's degree in computer science with concentrations in devices and artificial intelligence from the Georgia Institute of Technology. She also holds a master's degree in human-centered design and engineering from the University of Washington. And if that wasn't enough, she's also an entrepreneur who founded the wellness and beauty company Eden Bodyworks. Jasmine, I know you're a busy person. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and welcome to XSTEM.
Hey, Justin. I am delighted to be here with you today. So excited to be able to share my journey with everyone. All right, let's dive in. Hey there, my name is Jasmine Lawrence, and I am here to talk to you about real-life robotics, my journey from turning my dream into a reality. It was a long and rocky road, and I'm excited to take you down there with me. So let's dive in. I want to start by sharing my journey with you, how I went from just an 8-year-old kid who was interested in math and science, like some of you might be, to living my dream as both an entrepreneur and engineer. Well, on the next slide, you'll see that it started in a very unexpected way. Yeah, these are lottery tickets. As a kid, my grandfather used to play the lottery all the time. And while I wasn't old enough to play, I was old enough to play with the tickets. And I would use these pieces of paper to build lots of different structures and just lean into my creativity. I didn't know that I wanted to be an engineer at that time. All I knew was that I loved building things with paper, whether it be dresses or buildings or breath-powered cars. I was excited to use my hands and the things that I learned in school to create new things. But there was a pivotal moment in the late 90s that really inspired me, and that was a movie. This movie was called Bicentennial Man. As a lover of sci-fi films, I would watch movies about space and the future all the time. But this movie really sparked something in me. It showed me a world where robots can come alongside humans in their everyday life and help them with dull, dirty, and dangerous tasks. It also showed the emotional connection that can be built between humans and technology as we work together to live in harmony. This movie showed me what the future could look like. And as a kid who had, been in science classes and seen all of the other things that were invented primarily by men, I wanted a space that was untouched, somewhere where no one could tell me what to do or what to create, and I could do the research and figure it out on my own. But along the way, I hit an unfortunate hiccup. As an 8-year-old girl who was a pageant model, who did things like I was Little Miss Hawaii in 1994, I actually ended up losing my hair to a chemical relaxer. I got the relaxer because I wanted long, straight, beautiful hair like I had seen in movies and TV, again, inspired by film on what I felt like I was supposed to look like to be able to present myself in society. But it was a really hard time for me. Losing my hair, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go out in public and have people see me for what I felt was a lesser version of myself. But I learned so much from watching shows on TV, again, about how you can find solutions to problems, how you can create different experiments and try things out. So I decided to do that. I decided to experiment with natural ingredients and create my own line of hair and body care products so that I could live my life healthier and fuller than ever before. This research and investigating of oils and herbs and spices from all around the world inspired me to launch a company called Eden Body Works, named after the Garden of Eden. I was able to create a line of shampoos, conditioners, and eventually body care products to help regrow my hair. This creation and this company and my commitment to solving this problem for other women around the world really gave me a huge boost in confidence. I was so proud that I was able to create something that could actually impact people's lives. And it was very tough in the beginning, right? Going door to door, telling people my story, telling people about the thing that I invented, and really not getting a lot of traction because I was so young, because I was only 13 years old when I decided I want to build a business and I want to get my product out there to businesses around the world so that people could easily access these natural and effective and affordable products. But it only took one person, one specific person's recognition to really catapult my business into success. And that was Oprah Winfrey. As a teenager in high school, I was invited to share my story of what I created on her show. And it was amazing that she also had a similar story to me, where through her professional journey, she was criticized and stigmatized for the way that her hair showed up, even as a professional network journalist. So being there and being encouraged by someone who looked like me, who despite her journey and the odds that she faced, also found success in pursuing her wildest dreams, that nudge was the inspiration I needed to keep going. I'll just pause here and say, it doesn't matter how young you are, right? You can pursue your dreams with a little bit of encouragement and building on some of those skills that you learned in school. So like I said, I was still a teenager. I was still kind of living life, hanging out with friends, but I was thinking back to the movie, right? I was using the skills that I learned and the scientific method to create my own products, but there was more. There was more that I wanted to do. My mom took me to her job, to take your daughter to work day, and that inspired me to learn the word engineer. And so I looked online and tried to find engineering schools that had Black students there, that had women engineers there. And that's where I decided that I wanted to start my journey, continue my educational journey at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was an amazing school. I got to find other nerds like me who were interested in building the future from scratch. And it was at Georgia Tech that I was able to finally program my first robot. I will tell you this, I knew nothing about coding when I joined the Robotics and Intelligent Machines lab at Georgia Tech, but I was willing to learn. I didn't know if I would actually be good at this thing that I'd wanted to do at this point for the last 10 years. But I was able to have a mentor, Andrea Tomas, and another graduate assistant, Maya Kakmek, who were able to help me learn how to program, help me learn how they designed and broke down the robot's brain into different components. And so in my first project, I was able to teach a robot named Simon how to have favorite colors, how to figure out what things are salient or important in the environment to pay attention to, and to respond to them in systematic ways. I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled to finally be working firsthand on robots. But what I learned in college is that there is so much more work and research to be done to teach robots how to see, how to walk, how to dance, how to read, how to interact successfully with other people. And so to continue my journey to learn how to build products and how to build technology that people can actually use in their day-to-day lives, I decided to follow up on an internship and go full-time working at Microsoft. At Microsoft, I joined one of the most amazing teams there, which was Team Xbox. I worked with a diverse team of people from all around the world, working on a product that was in millions of homes all around the world. This is the experience that I was hoping to get, because one day I imagined that robots would be in homes around the world. And working with this team, I was able to figure out how software and hardware play together, how to meet a schedule of getting software deployed out into people's homes, and also how to listen to customer feedback and understand what people really need to have fun and to play games. And within a couple months of joining, I was able to launch my first hardware product. This was an amazing experience for me. This was just seeing the result of days and days and months and weeks of hard work and teamwork to build something that I could hold in my hands that I knew people would love to use. I also got the opportunity to travel the world. In this next slide, you'll see me in Germany speaking to thousands of journalists, telling the stories about how we've brought the amazing experiences of Xbox to your PC as well. Being an advocate for developers, for other gamers, even girl gamers and great gamers of color, was an amazing experience for me. It taught me about advocating for others and just showing up and being present so that other people could see that, hey, there are people that look like you, that have backgrounds like you, that play games and that tell stories. And that was something that really inspired me to figure out how I could have more empathy for different types of people in my work. And so I set off on an ambitious project to build clubs on Xbox Live, safe spaces where gamers of all backgrounds could create their own communities and set their own rules for how they feel safe to play online. So that experience building clubs is what really inspired me to go back to school. I know that, some people just go to college and, they're done with that. But for me, I was excited to continue to learn more. While I knew technically the engineering principles and all the science that was necessary to build software, I wanted to actually learn more about people. And so I went to the University of Washington to learn human-centered design and engineering. Now, this is an extremely long degree name, but essentially what I learned here is how to research, design, and build sustainable products. After being out of school for a little while, I decided to try something new. Continuing to grow my product line and building Xbox was great for a few years, but I wanted something new. So I switched teams to go work on the Microsoft HoloLens. It's an augmented reality headset that you can interact with gesture and voice with holograms in your real life. Now, I pursued this opportunity because I wanted to work on an advanced technology, something that people hadn't quite figured out how this was going to fit into their world yet. Because similar to robots, we might have a few of them in our lives, but we're still figuring out the best ways to interact with them and to find the right problems that we want to apply them to. Working on HoloLens was an amazing experience. We got to assist doctors and construction workers and builders and so many different people using this technology that had never been created before. I learned a lot more about really watching what people do and to understand how you fill those gaps with what exactly you're going to build. There was another pivotal moment for me next. I went to San Francisco to go to the Maker Faire, which is an amazing community of nerds and builders and artists who create amazing things, like Megabots, who created this 16-ton giant fighting robot that they were going to fly to Japan to duel with the country of Japan. It was inspiring for me. As a supporter on their Kickstarter, I was able to ride in this robot and really live my Gundam fantasies. It was at this moment that I realized that, hey, I think I've waited long enough to pursue my dream. I think I've waited long enough and doubted myself enough that it's time to just try it. So after this experience, I moved down to the Bay Area and got a job at SoftBank Robotics America, working on my first humanoid robot, Pepper. Pepper was the first robot that I worked on that worked with people in the real world, where we designed experiences and technology for Pepper to be on the job, assisting people as a receptionist, as a promoter, as a sales agent. It was amazing for me. I learned a lot more about kind of the Japanese culture and how they interact with robots, and how it's a little bit different here in the States. There are fears and concerns that you have to overcome in order to have people feel comfortable with this kind of technology. Working on Pepper was a blast, but I got another opportunity to move on to Facebook, where I got to work on the Facebook portal. It's a video communication device that really allows you to connect with people who are far away. And I know a lot of us have been stuck at home during the pandemic. And so having a portal and being on the team that helped bring this to life was really meaningful for me. I used this product to connect with my family who was far away from me at the time. And we really felt close. We were able to play games and just keep up on the day-to-day life. At Portal, I worked on the accessibility features, where we helped people with physical disabilities and mental disabilities use the software in an effective way. I loved working on my first non-hardware product, but I knew that I had this calling. I remembered back to the movie that I saw, and I found the opportunity to work on the Everyday Robot project. What really inspired me was that this was a large and really intelligent team that were willing to anchor in and really figure out how we solve the problems that I saw in the movie Bicentennial Man. How do we bring robots into your everyday life? How do we bring them to work successfully in unstructured environments? And learning is a key part of that. Throughout my whole journey of pursuing robotics, learning was at the heart of it. Trying new things was at the heart of it. And working with a diverse and inclusive set of people really allowed me to see different perspectives and build something that could help lots of people around the world. It was incredible, this long journey from seeing this movie to finally being able to have the skills and the opportunity to work on this team. And I'm so excited that I was able to land here. Now, before I dive into the Q&A with Justin, I'd like to share a few of the lessons and learnings that I had throughout this journey of pursuing robotics in real life. The number one lesson is that your career path doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you. I've worked in gaming, in health, in AR, VR, in communications, and accessibility, on mobile devices, on gaming consoles, and then finally on humanoid robots. And my journey has been winding and not straight. I didn't just get a degree in robotics and then dive into that. I learned so many different things along the way, and I'm excited that I was able to meet lots of different people who helped support me and mentor me to get there. So if you're at, this early stage in your life, or even if you're a parent who's looking to make a career change, I would say go for it and don't try and justify or explain what you want to do to pursue your dreams. Next, what I've learned is that money is not the most important way to measure success. While my business was profitable from an early age, what really mattered to me was the impact that I had on inspiring and encouraging other women to live happier, ambitious, and full lives, that they could do anything despite the way that they looked or how other people saw them. Even as I build robots that impact people's lives, we want to keep them accessible and affordable and low cost. But, selling millions of robots isn't my goal. It's to bring those robots into situations where they could help people in their everyday. And those people's lives and the change that we make is how I know that I'm on the right track and building the right things. Lastly, at the heart of what I do in both of my jobs as both an entrepreneur and engineer is love. And I believe that no matter what your career is, our job is to love people, whether it's the people that you're building products for or the people that you're working with to build those products. Together, when we have a supportive and loving environment, we can be so much more creative and ambitious and really get to the heart of what people need. So thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to my story and the advice and the lessons that I've learned. It's just been a pleasure to be able to pursue my dream. And I want to encourage you, if you're not sure if robotics is for you, to just get out there and try it. Meet new people, try new things, and don't limit yourself because of anything that anyone says or any doubts that you might have.
Jasmine, I'm trying to pick my jaw up from the floor. That was incredible. I mean, man, you just came with all the energy, with all the cool things. Like if I was a kid and I knew that you were working on all this stuff, I would just have to run up to you and get your autograph. Thank you so much for that presentation. We got a couple questions for you really quickly here. I want to learn about maybe some balance here. So you have this robotics career, you have this entrepreneurial venture, and maybe some kind of
Yeah.
personal life. I don't know, but how do you balance all those things?
Definitely. From an early age, I learned to keep a tight and a clear schedule. I make space for obviously sleeping 8 hours every night. I work, in a really defined schedule, and I like to plan ahead with vacations or time to hang out with my friends or family. And I know that time of rest and play is really important to my creativity, and that exposure to even traveling to different parts of the world help inspire me to solve new problems. So for me, I've got a calendar and a clear to-do list that I check in with each morning when I wake up and each night before I go to bed. But yeah, I would definitely say that my life is not 100% work. It's not.
Wow. And to do all that and say that, I think that's an inspiration for kids. All right. So one more question here. Let's look into the future, right? We got AI, we got machine learning, we've got robots becoming more and more dexterous as time goes on. What do you see
Yeah.
robots' role in our lives being in the future?
That is a tough question because there are so many opportunities, whether they're helping us in the healthcare space or exploring new planets. The opportunities for robots are whatever we can imagine. I'd love to work with robots that help support people in their day-to-day lives, people who are mobility impaired, or even having them working and doing construction or exploring the ocean so we can find better ways to protect it. There are endless opportunities, and I would say that anyone watching, if you've got ideas, let's brainstorm, let's work together and kind of bring those to life.
Awesome, Jasmine. That was an action-packed keynote, and thank you. That was a profound answer. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today for questions, but everybody, please give Jasmine a round of applause, a virtual high five, a virtual fist bump, all those things. She is killing it. Make sure you follow her at Eden's Jasmine to stay up to date on her work. And Jasmine, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for sharing and inspiring our youth. And I'm sure that you're making tech that will change our lives for the better.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'd like to again thank our generous partners at AstraZeneca, Discovery Channel, and the U.S. Space Force for supporting this XSTEM All Access program. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to tune in at the same time tomorrow for Next Gen STEM, featuring two young but superstar scientists, Catherine Kim and Deja Taylor. And don't worry if you can't watch live. The entire series will be available on demand at no cost. Visit usasciencefestival.org for more. Mark your calendars for our next event, the SciFest Virtual Expo in October. At SciFest, you'll virtually experience exhibit booths featuring hands-on interactive STEM content from hundreds of organizations. Catch superstar performances on the STEM stage, hunt for clues in the scavenger hunt, take selfies in the photo booth, earn points to win prizes, and so much more. It's going to be a blast. SciFest is a free event, so don't forget to register at usasciencefestival.org. I'll be there too. Folks, it's been an absolute blast hosting XSTEM with you all, but remember, this is just day 2. We got 2 more days to go, and I'm excited to see you tomorrow.